What if I told you the most consequential war of the 21st century wouldn't even look like a war at all? In the South China Sea today, there are no declarations of war, no invading fleets, no formal alliances mobilizing, and yet control is being claimed, pressure is being applied, and authority is being reshaped. What you're seeing isn't escalation to war, it's escalation without war. Before I go on further, if you like what you're hearing and you drop a like and a comment, I appreciate it. It's how the content gets traction and the algorithm works, and it helps more decision makers see it. 2025, the year of repetition. It didn't bring an explosion of violence in the South China Sea. It brought something much more strategic: repetition, normalization, and confidence. Across multiple disputed features, the nature of interaction shifted from episodic incident to routine pressure behavior. Last year, we saw frequent collisions and dangerous intercepts near Scarborough Shoal, including a collision between a Chinese Coast Guard cutter and a PLA Navy vessel that seriously damaged one Chinese ship, an incident that underlined how routine these interactions have become. Increased Chinese legal and administrative assertions over claimed waters, pushing interpretations of maritime jurisdiction and enforcement that expanded Beijing's de facto control. A wave of diplomatic friction as Manila rejected plans to designate disputed features as Chinese nature reserves, reinforcing the contested and ongoing atmosphere. The signal from 2025 wasn't kinetic escalation, it was strategic embedding. Every time a Philippine patrol was challenged but not fired upon, every time a Coast Guard pushback went unpunished, the environment shifted a little more toward acceptance of presence as authority. This is how patterns embed themselves into strategic context. We'll look at lawfare as power. When we talk about weapons in the South China Sea, we must expand our definition beyond missiles and warship. In 2025, lawfare became a central tool of influence. Legal narratives, administrative baselines, environmental zones, and unilateral enforcement claims have been weaponized to create an enforcement space, not just a territorial map. This looks like domestic maritime laws outlining enforcement rights over overlapping neighbouring EEZs, administrative claims that expand jurisdiction without a shot being fired, and legal justifications positioned to make opposition appear provocative rather than defensive. From an intelligence standpoint, this does two things. First, it reframes the theatre as a law enforcement environment, not a battle space. Second, it places a strategic onus on opponents to respond, thereby appear provocative. This isn't legal theory, it's a strategy. China isn't merely asserting claims, it is coding them into the structures that make resistance legally fraught, politically risky, and operationally ambiguous. That's not escalation, that is normalization of them. You've likely seen fishing vessels in these waters, but none of them are fishing. The maritime militia combines civil cover with military intent, blurring legal and tactical boundaries, forcing decision paralysis. If a claimant state responds militarily, it looks like escalation. It crosses thresholds that invite political cost. If it does nothing, territory and space are conceded without a fight. That's the grey zone in action, ambiguity used as a tool of control. And in 2025, we saw more of it, not less. Not because states are reckless, but because ambiguity produces leverage. This isn't chaos, it's calculated pressure. Why does this matter to the private sector? One third of global maritime trade transits the South China Sea, making it one of the most critical commercial arteries in the world. But what's being normalized here isn't conventional conflict. It's persistent strategic friction that shows up in corporate P&Ls long before it hits the news headlines. Most corporate risk models still operate like this. Freedom of navigation is binary, and stability exists until war breaks out. That type of thinking is obsolete. In the grey zone, insurance premiums adjust quietly, then permanently. Freight and commodities pricing absorbs political risk. Compliance regimes become political levers tied to national strategy. Transit delays are interpreted through national security lens. None of these are war, but yet all of them are economic friction with real costs attached. For corporations with assets in or routed through the Indo Pacific, the risk isn't a blockade, it's slow, cumulative coercion. And coercion isn't priced like war is, it's priced like entrenched uncertainty. This is a different risk profile, and most corporate models aren't built for it. So, what should corporations do? Here's a practical guide for decision makers. 1. Expand risk frameworks beyond binary conflict assumptions. Traditional scenario planning treats geopolitical risk as peacetime versus war. That thinking is obsolete. Risk models must incorporate continuum scenarios, including incremental jurisdictional redefinements, administrative enforcement expansion, and air and maritime intercept pattern of life. These are not anomalies, they are pressure behaviors. 2. Diversify routes and establish strategic redundancy. Geopolitical tensions are accelerating supply chain diversification strategies outside contested waters. Companies are already rerouting cargo through alternative corridors, establishing multiple supply bases in stable jurisdictions, and participating in resilience initiatives like friend-shoring or ally shoring. These are not costly hedges, they're operational imperatives. 3. Close the visibility gap. Real time supply chain visibility isn't a luxury, it's a competitive advantage. Tracking shipments, supplies, and choke points gives you early warning on friction points before they become costs. Internal audit and cross functional risk teams should integrate real time geopolitical signals into operational dashboards, not just finance and compliance. 4. Price uncertainty into commercial decisions. Insurance ratchets up when risk is no longer episodic. Premiums for South China Sea routes have climbed as markets price in directional geopolitical risk. That means tender pricing must factor in geopolitical variance, contract clauses should adjust for political interference, and finance teams should model non-linear cost curves for friction. 5. Strengthen multilateral engagements with public and private partners. Neither governments nor corporations can manage this risk alone. Strategically aligned partnerships regionally and across allied markets help firms increase regulatory interpretation, shape actionable intelligence, and coordinate cross border transit protocols. This isn't about politics, it's about shared operational security. The key insight for 2026 is simple. The South China Sea won't break economics. It will bend them slowly, persistently, and through ambiguity. Your risk models must capture that, your planning must anticipate it, and your response must be proactive, not reactive. What to watch next? For 2026, the strategic indicators won't be dramatic. Watch for expanded air intercepts as a routine exercise, incremental enforcement zone announcements, administrative measures framed as safety or conservation, multinational patrols testing legal thresholds. None of these signal war, yet all of them signal pressure being normalized. The South China Sea isn't waiting to explode, it's being absorbed. In closing, the mistake is waiting for escalation. The reality is accumulation. In the South China Sea, control isn't seized with shock. It's woven through pressure, ambiguity, and lawfare. By the time conflict looks like war, the environment has already changed. This has been the Grey Zone Brief. If you found this analysis useful, subscribe so you don't miss future briefings. And if you know somebody making decisions in complex environments, share it with them. And I'll see you in the next episode.